You're talking about their entire lives being uprooted. They're losing significant others, everything they've ever worked for.
Illegal betting operations remain one of the biggest issues for Tennessee's Sports Wagering Council, and they cost the state millions in lost revenue.
This is Kenley Hargett explains why some bettors might not know they are using these illegal books.
Sports betting in the state of Tennessee is so popular that the most recent state data shows between July 1st to July 31st, more than $305 million was wagered online. But not every online sports book is legitimate.
If somebody chooses to use an illegal sports book, they are doing so at their own risk.
Mary Beth Thomas serves as the Sports Wagering Council Executive Director. She was appointed in 2021 and manages a 20-person team that works to make sure sports books are in compliance with state law and to catch these companies operating illegally in Tennessee.
To your question on where they're located, the majority of them are located overseas, in the islands, in places where we do not have a jurisdictional reach.
Tennessee Sports Wagering Council lists 12 licensed sports books in Tennessee. Many offshore illegal sports books operate under several different names. Unlicensed sports books account for 30% of the missing tax revenue owed to the state of Tennessee.
We have $5.5 billion of wagering activity a year. 30% more of that could be captured if individuals were wagering on legal books.
Thomas does believe many players don't even know they're wagering on unlicensed sports books. She believes these companies use tactics that make their websites look legitimate, luring customers through social media, mailings, and celebrity sponsorships. Working to stop these companies from operating in Tennessee is considered a major victory.
We were really pleased that a very large sports book called Bovada voluntarily, after our cease and desist letter, agreed to leave our state and no longer accept wagers.
Online sports betting brings billions of tax revenue into Tennessee every year, but it takes a lot of work to stop unlicensed companies from operating in the state. It's a fight that Thomas and her team are ready to win.
So far, we have had 5 entities that were offering illegal sports betting or illegal fantasy sports products leave the state. We have not had any entities pay yet, but we are working closely with the Attorney General's office to turn those civil penalties into enforceable judgments.
Tennessee Sports Wagering Council is working with federal partners to hold overseas sports books accountable for illegally operating. The first offense is a $10,000 fine, second is a $15,000 fine, and the third is a $25,000 fine. The council can then fine the sports book $25,000 for each additional wager placed.
Thank you, Kenley. We continue our special reports on sports betting tonight. Coming up on News 2 at 6, we take a look at how local bettors are handling these high stakes and trying to beat the odds.
Well, Tennessee is the largest online-only sports betting market in the country since it became legalized 5 years ago.
As the state rakes in piles of tax revenue, reports of gambling addiction rates are also climbing. In our all-day-long coverage of sports betting in Tennessee, Nicole Smith explains how families are losing in more ways than one.
In a lot of ways, they're suffering in silence.
A silent suffering, but the impacts are loud and clear.
You're talking about their entire lives being uprooted. They're losing significant others, everything they've ever worked for.
Leonardo Martinez Torres works to help people addicted to gambling.
For a lot of gamblers, it's not just about the money. There's certain needs on a deeper level being met.
And meeting that addictive need is now more accessible since Tennessee legalized sports betting 5 years ago.
They could do it at home. They could get out of bed and start gambling in between breaks, at work, anywhere. They can just gamble from their phone. All they got to do is pull up their phone, go onto the app, and they can place a bet right then and there. So accessibility is a huge factor in individuals increasing their gambling.
Anyone can call or text the TN Red Line 24/7 for a free and confidential referral for gambling treatment services. For fiscal year 23, there were 477 calls related to gambling. The next year, 746 calls. And for fiscal year 2025, 659 calls.
There's gamblers that have lost thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands.
In January this year, people in Tennessee wagered more than $500 million in online sports betting.
we've seen the average age of individuals coming in for treatment actually reduce. So younger males are coming in more and more.
The State Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services gets a percentage of the revenue from the tax on proceeds of sports gaming in Tennessee. They contract with the gambling clinic through the University of Memphis for this work. That funding went from $1.2 million for the fiscal year 2023 to $4.3 million in the most recent budget.
There's a cost to come to the clinic, but I want to emphasize that we don't turn anybody away.
The gambling clinic has 3 locations in Tennessee and just opened the location in Nashville about a year ago.
It really depends on the gambler themselves, because until they're ready, oftentimes they won't want to come in. And you can tell them, hey, you really need help, but they may not see it that way. They may think their behavior is absolutely fine, and they don't actually have a gambling problem.
40% of the gambling clinic's clients are from Middle Tennessee. Gambling addiction signs include irritability, lying to cover up the issue, and chasing their losses.
And they'll keep going to try to win back what they lost, and oftentimes it keeps going under and under and under.
Martinez-Torres says treatment does work.
What gives me so much hope for individuals to overcome this issue is that I've seen it. What I have found is individuals that come in for treatment, that tap into their support network, whether that be their family, their significant other, and friends, have an easier time in that process. Also, there are programs out there that can block you from accessing gambling sites.
Reporting in Nashville, Nikel Smith, News 2.
The gambling clinic offers help in person and through telehealth. Just call the number right there on your screen, or you can visit thegamblingclinic.com.
In the high-stakes gambling business, sports betting appears to have a good hand, specifically online sports betting. It's picking up steam across the U.S. and now legal in more than half the states. And each state is regulating this new industry in its own way.
We want every Tennessean who chooses to wager to know that they are doing it in the safest environment possible. And that's our job, to make sure that we're enforcing those consumer protection provisions.
Mary Beth Thomas is the first executive director of Tennessee's Sports Wagering Council, an agency within state government. In 4 years, she has built a staff of 20, including former law enforcement, attorneys, and data analysts. There's also a board. State lawmakers appoint 2/3 of the members, while the governor appoints 1/3.
We're fortunate and pretty unique that we are a standalone state agency that regulates sports betting and fantasy sports only. It's allowed us to really understand our industry.
When the state created the Sports Wagering Council, they gave it 3 key functions: licensing, compliance, and investigation.
We really started focusing on licensing because there were a lot of entities that wanted to get into this space.
If a new sportsbook wishes to operate in Tennessee, the SWC has 90 days to approve or deny its license. Before approving, staff investigate sportsbooks for discipline issues in other states. They deep dive research their personnel and the platform security measures.
We have to understand how their tech platform works, and we have, fortunately, some really great tech experts here who can do that.
Right now, the SWC says it devotes a large amount of time ensuring sportsbooks are complying with advertising rules and identity checks, while also investigating illegal offshore sportsbooks trying to operate under the radar here in the U.S.
We have had to be very creative about the ways that we investigate them and initiate disciplinary action.
The National Council for Problem Gambling tracks how states are rolling out online sports betting and ranks them too.
You're doing better than most, but there's certainly still room for growth.
Their spokesperson, Kate Hubel, says Tennessee meets about half of its 82 safe gambling standards, which puts it in the top tier among states. In fact, in its 2024 report, Tennessee gets positive marks for limiting betting to those 21 and older and allowing players time and wager limits. But as this new industry continues to bring revenue into state coffers, Hubel would like to see lawmakers commit more money toward fighting gambling addiction.
One of the improvements that Tennessee could make certainly is to dedicate a higher portion of their funding towards problem gambling services.
The only legal way to bet on sports in Tennessee is online. So whether it's on an app on your phone or a website on your computer, you must be 21 years old and be physically located in the state of Tennessee. And yes, these online sports books know exactly where you're located. They are required to use geolocation services.
It is very precise. It can tell where you are down to just within a couple of feet to be sure that you are physically located in Tennessee and that you can wager in accordance with the laws of Tennessee.
Stephanie Maxwell is the Deputy Director and General Counsel for the Tennessee Sports Wagering Council. She says it's important to make sure you're placing a bet with an online sports book licensed to operate in Tennessee. There are currently 12.
A lot of the illegal, unlicensed sports books look very similar to a licensed sports book, and you can't really tell the difference if you just look on their website. It looks very similar. You might see just the same setup of odds and lines and whatnot. So you can look on our website for a list of licensed books.
It's illegal to place a bet on someone else's behalf, or what's known as a proxy bet.
It is to prevent someone who is prohibited either because they are under the age of 21, or maybe they're prohibited because they're an athlete that is prohibited from wagering on a certain sport, or maybe they are on an exclusion list. They have chosen to be self-excluded if they have a gambling problem.
For those who choose to exclude themselves from sports betting, there is a form that can be filled out on the Tennessee Sports Wagering Council's website. They will then disseminate that information to all of the licensed sports books in the state. There are also resources available if you need help.
If you think you might have a gambling problem, you can call the Tennessee Red Line, and that phone number is on our website, on the Sports Wagering Council's website. You can also call 1-800-GAMBLER, which is the national problem gambling helpline, and they will get you in touch with Tennessee as well. The University of Memphis has a gambling clinic that is renowned across the country that offers counseling as well.
Well, sports wagering is a huge moneymaker for Tennessee. In just 5 years, it's generated billions of dollars.
And all of that money has been reinvested back into the state. News 2's Tori Gessner shows us which people and programs benefit from the bets as we wrap up our day-long special reports, High Stakes, exploring the world of sports betting.
From football to basketball, sports betting is a big business in Tennessee. Approved by the General Assembly in 2019, going into effect in 2020. Every wager placed since isn't just a gamble on the game. It's a guaranteed win for the programs that get to pocket the proceeds.
What this piece of legislation is doing, more so than anything, is looking to capture dollars that we can put to good use in the state of Tennessee.
When you bet on sports in the volunteer state, you pay a 1.85% tax called the privilege tax. That money gets reinvested back into Tennessee.
Since November 1st of 2020 through the end of the fiscal year 25, so through June 30, 2025, $345 million in privilege taxes have been assessed to the online licensed sports books.
Of that $345 million, $52 million, or 15% of the privilege tax, has gone to local governments for infrastructure projects and emergency services. $17 million, or 5%, has paid for programs to fight gambling addiction through the Department of Mental Health. $276 million, or 80%, has gone to education initiatives like the Hope Scholarship and Tennessee Promise. But this year, that changed when lawmakers passed the Education Freedom Scholarship Act, which started a school voucher program in Tennessee. Starting July 1st, the 80% of the privilege tax that was going toward the Lottery for Education account started going toward building and maintaining public schools instead. According to the Tennessee Sports Wagering Council, in July 2025 alone, there were more than $305 million worth of gross wagers made, generating more than $5.5 million in privilege taxes. And the revenue keeps growing year over year.
From FY23 to FY24, there was a 20% increase in wagering activity. From 24 to 25, there was an 18% increase in wagering activity. Already in the first month of the current fiscal year, we're 10% above where the previous month of July. Of July 24.
It's tough to say when things might slow down, but until then, the benefits of sports wagering go beyond those making the bets. The real winners, the people and programs putting the proceeds to work.
People are using, are wagering for entertainment, to, as something to have a little fun with. That's great, and the state is able to capture some revenue that it goes to these causes of whether it's affecting your local hometown or it's affecting now your local high school or middle school with new construction and maintenance, or whether it's sort of going back to the Department of Mental Health to help fund responsible gambling initiatives and programs. I think it's, like I said, with the $276 million, it's more than the state was otherwise getting. So it's a good thing.
In Nashville, Tori Gessner, News 2.
Welcome back. Gambling disorder impacts 1.2% of the world's adult population. Nathan Miller with the Volunteer Behavioral Health Care System joins me now to dive into this. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Is there a population, a demographic that is maybe most vulnerable to fall into a gambling disorder?
Well, people of all ages and all economic status, gamble. Some folks at a higher rate than others, simply because they have more money to gamble. Some, like the population, a lot of times we see it volunteer, are the underserved, the people who don't have a lot of resources or money to be gambling. And that often causes, issues with finances for them. It often takes away opportunities with them. From their families, from their children. They sometimes struggle with housing, they struggle with employment, they struggle with domestic abuse. Those type of things can all come out of those issues where people really have harmful struggles with gambling.
Yeah, and gambling at what's called a harmful level is when someone generates around 60% of losses. What risks come with gambling at that level?
Well, just as I said, you have the risk of losing your employment, your family, neglect, abuse, all these things, even to the point of not being able to eat. Sometimes. My thought is if you don't have the money, you wouldn't gamble.
Right.
But that's not always the case, because people think if I gamble, I can win big, and then I have the money and I'm okay. And that's oftentimes more not the case than they win.
You really have to think about that ripple effect, impacting your job, your family, your friends.
And somebody who gambles at a harmful level, usually that's going to touch about 6 people outside and who surround them with his family, friends, and those type of things. So it's not just the person that's gambling that struggles with this. It's those people around them as well.
So say those 6 people, what signs should they be looking out for that perhaps, they notice a problem?
Well, that comes back to, the shortness of money, not having enough money, bills not getting paid, again, not being able to eat, those type of things. And it may end up being anxiety, depression, and maybe even suicide, because when folks get to a certain point, maybe they decide this is it, I can't handle it anymore. My losses are just too great.
And we don't want anyone to deal with any of those symptoms that come along with it. So what are some of the treatment options that are available?
Well, some of the treatment options that are available out there, the best one that I found is just plain therapy or some type of structured program toward gambling addiction. Therapy seems to work better. That's the one thing. Medication, of course, is not going to help gambling. So having therapy, working through it, and a lot of times those underlying problems that may cause someone to gamble are worked out through therapy as well.
Perfect. So help is out there, best in the form of therapy. Thank you so much for being here and sharing that with us. And we will continue our coverage of high stakes throughout the day. Picks back up at 3 p.m. when Bob Mueller looks at how legalized sports gambling got off the ground in Tennessee. We are also going to post this full segment to WKRN.com if you would like to watch it again. Welcome back. It is officially football season and sports betting has reached new levels in Tennessee. All day today, we are exploring the impact in our series of reports called High Stakes. So Mary Beth Thomas with the Sports Wagering Council joins me now. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We appreciate your time. And I want to talk to you about the way that legal sports betting in Tennessee came to be, how it's evolved over these past 5 years. So when Tennessee first launched legal sports betting about 5 years ago, what were the council's initial goals and expectations for keeping this legal and safe?
great question. So the council really wanted to focus on implementing the legislature's great consumer protections that they put in place in the Sports Gaming Act. And they developed a very robust set of rules that make sure that minors aren't able to wager, that sportsbooks know who is wagering on their platform, that protects people from, types of fraud and other things that can happen, and importantly, things that provide an ability for people who don't want to wager to be able to exempt themselves from doing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What has surprised you the most about the way this has evolved over the past 5 years?
I think it's grown more quickly than I expected. Last year alone, Tennesseans, or I should say people located in Tennessee, wagered $5.6 billion.
Wow. Yeah, billion with a B.
And so that's a lot of really strong interest in it. And I think that we see that a lot of people enjoy watching a football game and wagering on that game, and it can be a social activity with their friends. And it also generates money for Tennessee education. So it's benefiting the state as well.
Sure. If you could share a bit more about that, what the benefits are in terms of providing, support for education.
Yes. So to date, the sports wagering privilege tax has generated around $350 million for education. Originally, that went to the Tennessee Promise, the Hope Scholarship Funds, and it now will go to maintenance and capital projects for schools under the new ESA Act.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So headed into this football season, which is, in full swing, today, tomorrow, through this weekend, what are the priorities of the Sports Wagering Council?
Our priority is to make sure that for those who choose to wager, they do so in the safest environment possible, meaning that, as I said, we prevent minors from accessing. We make sure that players who are supposed to be prohibited, perhaps an athlete or somebody else who might have inside information, that they are not accessing sports books, and that we're able to be a resource for players when they have an issue that they need to address with a sports book.
Where do you see the industry heading in the next 5 years?
Well, one only knows, but I think that we're going to continue to see strong interest. I also think that due to the great work of some of our staff, we are going to continue to eliminate some of the illegal actors, illegal sports books, and I think that will only generate further growth with our legal ones.
Perfect. Yeah, I want to keep people safe and protected. Thank you so much for your insight and for being here.